The moment I saw my own name glowing on my best friend's phone, I realized I had spent years misunderstanding the one person who had never stopped understanding me. It was late, raining hard, and we were lost on the outskirts of town when I reached for Emma's phone to pull up the directions. I expected to see a map. Instead, a notification appeared across the screen, and beneath my name was a contact label I never expected to read: "Don't text him drunk." My stomach dropped. For a few seconds, the rain against the windshield was the only sound I could hear. I stared at those words, wondering how many nights she had typed messages to me, erased them, and then warned herself not to send another. What I didn't know was that those 5 words were hiding a story about love, fear, sacrifice, and a friendship that had quietly become something neither of us was brave enough to name. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of people who stay when everyone else walks away, take a moment to like, comment, share this story, and subscribe to the channel. Sometimes the person standing closest to us is the one we understand the least. Emma had been my best friend since college. We met during a miserable first semester when I was struggling with classes, working 2 jobs, and trying to recover from the sudden death of my father. Most people saw me as the quiet guy who never complained, but Emma somehow noticed everything I tried to hide. She would leave coffee outside my apartment before early lectures. She remembered the anniversary of my father's death when I could barely remember what day it was. When I failed an important exam, she sat beside me on the library floor until midnight without making me feel like a failure. Years passed, and our friendship became the kind that people envied. We knew each other's favorite foods, embarrassing stories, family problems, and deepest fears. Yet there was one thing we never discussed. Everyone around us seemed to think we belonged together. We always laughed it off. Emma would call me her brother. I would joke that she was too stubborn to date. And somewhere between those jokes, both of us became experts at pretending our hearts were saying something different. Then I met Claire. She was kind, beautiful, and everything I thought I needed. Emma supported me from the beginning. She helped me choose where to take Claire for our first date, listened to every nervous update, and even encouraged me to buy a jacket I couldn't afford. I thought she was simply being a good friend. I didn't notice the way her smile became smaller whenever I talked about Claire. I didn't notice how often she suddenly became busy when we made plans as a couple. I certainly didn't notice the messages she typed and deleted. What I did notice was that Emma slowly became distant. I blamed work. Then I blamed life. Eventually, I blamed myself for being too busy. But I never asked the right question. My relationship with Claire lasted almost 2 years. When it ended badly. She had accepted a job across the country and wanted a life I couldn't imagine leaving everything for. I wanted stability. She wanted adventure. Neither of us was wrong, but by the end we were hurting each other more than loving each other. The night she left, I drank for the first time in years. I called Emma at nearly 2 in the morning, barely able to speak. She drove across town, found me sitting alone on the apartment stairs, and stayed until sunrise. She didn't lecture me. She didn't tell me to move on. She simply sat beside me while I cried. The next morning, I barely remembered what I had said to her. I only remembered waking up with a blanket over my shoulders. Months later, Emma invited me on a short weekend trip with a few friends. I almost canceled because work had become overwhelming, but she insisted I needed to get out of the city. On the way home, heavy rain forced us onto unfamiliar roads. Everyone else had fallen asleep, leaving Emma in the passenger seat and me behind the wheel. When the GPS stopped working, Emma offered me her phone. I reached over, unlocked it, and searched for the map. That's when I saw my name. Not my real name, but the strange label beneath it. Don't text him drunk. I tried to laugh, but nothing came out. Emma immediately reached for the phone. Her face changed when she realized what I had seen. She looked embarrassed, almost frightened. For the first time in all the years I had known her, Emma seemed genuinely afraid of me finding out something. I asked her what it meant. She said it was nothing, but her voice made it obvious that it was everything. I told her I wasn't angry. I just wanted the truth. She stared through the rain-covered windshield for a long time before finally admitting that she had written that name after my breakup with Claire. She explained that during those first few months, I used to call her whenever I was lonely. Sometimes I was emotional. Sometimes I had been drinking. Once, I had nearly told her that I loved her. The next morning, I had forgotten most of the conversation. Emma hadn't. She remembered every word. She remembered me saying that she was the only person who had ever made me feel safe. She remembered me telling her that losing her would hurt more than losing any relationship. But she also remembered that I was grieving, confused, and vulnerable. She couldn't tell whether my feelings were real or simply the loneliness talking. So she gave herself a rule. If I ever texted her while drunk, she wouldn't encourage whatever I might say. She wouldn't take advantage of my sadness. She would wait until morning, when I could choose her with a clear mind. The contact name wasn't a joke. It was a boundary she had created because she cared about me too much to let a vulnerable moment decide our future. I felt ashamed. All those years, I had assumed Emma was pulling away because she didn't care. The truth was the opposite. She had been protecting both of us. I asked her how long she had loved me. She looked down at her hands and quietly admitted that she couldn't remember when friendship had become love. Maybe it happened in the library. Maybe it happened when she drove me to my father's funeral. Maybe it happened in 100 ordinary moments that neither of us considered important at the time. Then she told me something that broke my heart. She had almost confessed everything after my breakup with Claire, but she stopped herself because she was terrified that I would choose her only because I was hurting. She wanted to be someone's first choice, not someone's shelter from heartbreak. So she stayed silent. The car became painfully quiet. Outside, rain slid down the glass in endless streams, turning the road lights into blurry stars. I thought about every time Emma had been there for me. Every birthday she remembered. Every difficult night she answered. Every time she encouraged me to chase someone else while quietly hiding what she wanted. I realized kindness isn't always grand. Sometimes kindness is loving someone enough to wait. Sometimes it is stepping back when every part of you wants to step forward. I didn't kiss her that night. I didn't make some dramatic promise. Instead, I told her that I wanted to earn the right to know what we could become. I told her I didn't want to choose her because I was lonely. I wanted to choose her because, even when life was good, she was still the person I wanted beside me. Emma cried quietly. Then she smiled and said she had waited long enough to hear that. The next several months were different. We started slowly. No dramatic declarations. No rushing. We went on ordinary dates. We argued about restaurants. We laughed over terrible movies. We learned things about each other that friendship had somehow hidden. I discovered that Emma hated thunderstorms despite pretending otherwise. She discovered that I still kept my father's old watch in a drawer because I was afraid to wear it and damage it. We stopped pretending we knew everything about each other and began discovering one another all over again. One evening, nearly a year after the night I found that contact name, Emma handed me her phone and asked me to choose the music. I opened her contacts by accident. My name was still there. For a moment, my heart stopped. But the label had changed. It simply said my name. I looked at her, and she smiled. She hadn't changed it because she wanted to erase the past. She changed it because the warning was no longer necessary. I wasn't calling her drunk anymore. I wasn't reaching for her because I was lonely. I was reaching for her because she had become the person I wanted to share every ordinary morning, every difficult night, every ridiculous joke, and every uncertain tomorrow with. Years later, when we got married, Emma told our story to our closest friends. Everyone laughed when she revealed the old contact name, but I noticed her eyes becoming watery. She explained that the strangest part wasn't that she had loved me silently for so long. The strangest part was that she had been willing to lose me rather than accept love that wasn't freely given. That lesson stayed with me. We often think love is about holding on tightly, but sometimes the purest form of love is giving someone enough freedom to make their own choice. Emma could have confessed when I was vulnerable. She could have taken advantage of my loneliness. Instead, she waited. And because she waited, when I finally chose her, there was no confusion, no regret, and no question about why. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more stories about kindness, hope, and unexpected love. Your support helps these stories reach someone who might need their own reminder that good people still exist. And before the story ends, I want you to leave one special comment. I believe real love knows when to wait. Because sometimes the person who loves you most isn't the one shouting their feelings from the rooftops. Sometimes they're the person quietly sitting beside you in the dark, protecting your heart until you're strong enough to recognize where it truly belongs. And sometimes, the most heartbreaking warning in someone's phone is actually proof of the most beautiful kind of love, the kind that refuses to take what you aren't ready to freely give.